Sometimes we just need a little bit of cuteness in our lives, and this is definitely that, and it's also a roguelike. And I'm not talking about that indie genre of roguelike to where it's like, it's a platformer, but it's also got roguelike elements. No, this is actually like a classic roguelike game, as in you're on a grid, and everything moves when you move, and whenever you take an action, everything else moves, and it's kind of got this really interesting idea of being about curry and everything, so it's got a weird, wacky world, and that's kind of what the game kind of centralizes on, so it's not the most complex roguelike, but it's still fun. Regardless, Michael here, and today we're checking out Sorcery Saga, Curse of the Great Curry God, which is a fun little kind of game. I believe it originally released on the PlayStation Vita, so them releasing on PC kind of makes sense because a lot of Vita ports have been coming over, and they actually had a bunch of interesting roguelikes on the Vita, and this is one of the ones that kind of centralizes around its story and kind of its quirkiness, and we'll go over that a little bit later. First off, we'll go over the options real quick, just showing them off. Quick editor note, I forgot to mention that I got a review key for this one. I always forget when I do because I buy most of my games, and so when I get a review key, it's actually pretty rare. And I thought about this one because it was on my wish list, so there you go. I ended up getting a review key for this one, it says in my notes, so apologies for not mentioning it in the video. It didn't actually infect my impressions all that much. You got volume sliders, and you also have the grid, which when you actually hold down X in the game, you'll actually show your grid, or if you're using an ability that needs to show the grid, it'll show the grid, so it's not like it turns it off forever. But if you like to see it on the actual area map and you want to see where you're able to move, you can end up turning this on. I don't have a problem with it, so I keep it on. You can also change your game speed if you care. Then you can actually rebind absolutely everything, which is super, super nice. And the resolution is 10 pixels off or something like that. I don't know why. It kind of bothers me more than it should, but yeah, it's like slightly off. It doesn't seem to affect the games visually at all, but yeah, I don't know why it's like that, and I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but that's how it is. And then playing it in borderless, it also has full screen and window mode. It changes automatically when you swap it over. One thing to mention also is that the game actually has full mouse and keyboard support as well. Some of the menus you have to scroll through with WASD or your scroll wheel. No, I would not like to use that. It tries to make a default device, but they both work at the exact same time, so there you go. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go into my game here, which I'm only about 3 hours in. Not that far into the game, so this game could get a little bit more complex than it is now. They're actually still introducing elements to the game. The game, again, is very heavy on the story aspects to it, and so it's kind of like this fun little quirky style. You start off as Pooparoo in a kind of a school thing, I think, and then you're actually going to this exam. You're like, oh, I don't want to go on this exam or whatever. Whoever does the best on the exam ends up going to this tower. And then basically, she passes the exam just by hitting random things, and it's like, oh, well, that's lucky / not lucky, because then she goes into a tower, she meets a little furry friend, and then they get mad at her and kick her out. And so, this big curry place now is like what she's doing is she's trying to save Smile Curry, which is, yeah, and it's got some quirkiness, and there's a love triangle and stuff, so yeah, it's kind of fun. I can't talk about it too much based off of, you know, what I've played so far, but so far it's enjoyable. There are some cliches, and some of the translation is a little iffy. I don't know if it's actually like the character personalities themselves that are supposed to be like that, but regardless, let's go ahead and talk about gameplay mechanics, because that's why you're here. Now, the game does have some kind of carryover mechanics. When you go into a dungeon, it will restart you at level 1 every single time, and if you die, you lose all the items you were carrying and stuff like that. So the last time I was playing, I actually lost all of my items. So if I go to my items here, you'll see I only have my equipped items because I lost absolutely everything else, because while I was recording, I made some mistakes. And so, well, yeah, if I wanted to use an attack ball, throw it. Oh, it made him tougher because it was a buff item, and I got myself killed. Well then, trying to show off mechanics and I got killed. Ugh. Yeah, it was unfortunate. But when I was actually, you know, going back to try and actually edit that video, not only was it not particularly to my standard, but I also kind of botched the recording. So, yeah, we didn't get to release that version, so we get this better version. So I will try not to die this time, but, yeah. Anyway, so the carrying overs type of stuff, you get an item box so you can store different items, and you actually use this giant fuzzy dude over here. And you can actually use him, the giant Q, and you can actually upgrade materials and stuff like that. You can also do it in dungeon using the other small Q we'll talk about a little bit later. You can also store money and stuff like that, which you can use to buy items we'll look at in a second. Then you also get your study desk, so you get spells and stuff like that, and as you find different books, you're able to kind of combine them or improve them and stuff like that. So I've got my fire and ice spell here, so the fire is actually slightly upgraded because I found a second book. So you're able to kind of carry over some of your skills and stuff like that. They have limited uses inside dungeons. You get cosmetics and stuff like that. I have nothing unlocked. I got this headpiece, and that's pretty much it. I don't know how much is actually in the game. Your levels and stuff like that don't carry over, but your items do. And so when you leave a dungeon safely, you can also buy an item, I found out. I don't know why it goes full black screen, but there's also an item that's sometimes in the shop where you're able to buy it. It's a doll, and it's basically an escape doll, and it basically brings you back without losing all your items and stuff like that. So you can actually get some items like that, but for the most part, if you leave a dungeon without actually, you know, finishing it, or you end up dying, then you kind of get dragged out of it and you lose all your items. So it does have that kind of permadeath element to it, but you are able to carry over some of your stuff. So keeping over everything is a good idea, but some of the items that you end up going into, is a bad idea to lose. So when we were actually looking at here, you'll notice that we have a bunch of potions, but you also have some food items. This game kind of centers around the idea of curry, and so you're actually expected to kind of cook your own curry and stuff like that while you're in dungeons. But I got some basic items, and you can actually sell stuff as well. So when you bring stuff back, maybe you don't need them anymore, you can end up selling them for money and then trade them over and stuff like that. But yeah, and then you get your library, which is just going over the other story element stuff. So let's go ahead and go to the world map. I did unlock a new area, which is called the Restore Maze. And so if you lose all your items, apparently this is supposed to be an area that's really good to get items back for. But screw that, we're going to go straight into the depths of it, and I'm going to go right back to where I was, which this is where the game is challenging at the moment. As in, I don't know if there's any sort of sense of progression to where the game gets more difficult as you go along. I believe it probably does, as in the dungeons get a little bit more difficult, but I don't know if there's any sort of leveling or anything along those lines. Now, you'll actually see, again, this is a grid base. If I hold down X, you can actually see the grid, and you can actually change your direction. One interesting thing is you can actually move diagonal as well to save yourself some turns and stuff like that. Now, the game does have this little guy following me around. His name is Ku at the moment, and so he actually is kind of your hunger mechanic. And so a lot of classical, if you've actually played a lot of classical kind of roguelites, you'll actually probably understand the standards of it to where you end up moving around and everything moves when you move. And then you also have other styles of mechanics such as hunger. Now this little guy, instead of your main character getting hungry and stuff like that, they actually have this little guy, and he helps you fight and stuff like that. So he's kind of like a companion, but you'll actually have to feed him items as you go through the dungeon. And as he takes damage, you'll actually end up getting more and more hungry, and so it kind of centers around that idea rather than making the main character kind of go around. And you actually notice a bunch of different stuff that kind of plays into it. Oh, and I got poisoned. Status effects are also a big thing in this game as well, but you actually do regenerate pretty dang quickly. The game loves to throw items at you as well, but the game also loves you to use your items as well. So you actually get a bunch of different upgrade scrolls and different ways you can end up using the same amount of items. You also have a fast forward and stuff like that to make some of this go a little bit quicker. I'm kind of just searching around. As you see, the little Q guy is going around and fighting on his own as well. Now, most of the game is fairly slow paced, and it will be running at the pace that you want it to. I'm just kind of searching around to see if we can end up finding any chests, because there are some randomized elements as well. The overworld maps like this one are going to be the same no matter what you end up doing. So this map will be the same every time you end up entering it, but when we get into a dungeon, that's where the randomization comes into. And one complaint I do have is you're able to kind of see definitely what is randomized and what isn't. Like, you'll notice the map on here is fairly complex and can change the map style as well for whatever reason. I think this is the original resolution that was on the Vita, which I can't even tell what it is on my monitor, and so I don't use that very often. But as you proceed through these, you'll notice the kind of weird differentiations between what is randomized and what isn't. So on this forest areas, it looks very designed and kind of interesting, stuff like that. The dungeons, unfortunately, are not quite that way. And the enemies and stuff like that, and the items and stuff like that are definitely randomized as well when you're on these areas, but the map itself is not. And when you get into dungeons, it is very noticeable. We'll see that in a little bit. But my little guy is getting hungry here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw him some items. So if I go on here, grab my items. Ooh, I've never seen that before. Maybe a bit of a wizard. It will curse one's items. Oh, I don't want that. Here, Ku, take it. There you go. Yeah, he loved it. He really didn't. So you'll notice some items he doesn't like. Ooh, transport book. I've never used that before either. Again, this is a new area, so there's a lot of new items I haven't seen. I don't actually know what these are, so I can actually equip them and see what they are. So it's like, oh, that was a buckler. And so some items are kind of shrouded in mystery, and sometimes you'll end up finding things that are actually cursed. Some things have different stats on them, so those things are like defenses and stuff like that. My Comet Shield is much better than those, so I'm going to go ahead and equip it. But to feed my little guy, since he is kind of getting hungry, I'm going to throw him some items. That just gave him a buff. And you kind of have to play around with a lot of items. Like, some items will actually make him fed. Some items will not be so good for him. So if I give him that one, it's like he doesn't like dragon meat. So, you know, again, set out an explosion that hurts everything around you. Not a bad idea. I don't know if it hurts Ku or not, but I'm going to save some rice. A potion will probably fill him up. There we go. But if he actually ends up running out of food and ends up getting super, super hungry, what'll happen is he'll just end up falling over, and you can't leave the dungeon until he's been fed, which is a little bit annoying when you end up running out of items, but it is kind of like one of those roguelike element items to where it's like, oh yeah, you know, you have to watch how much of your items you're using and or watch how you're using them as well. And again, what items you end up feeding to them and which ones you don't. Some items can be used on different items. There is a enhance feature if I end up leveling him up enough. For example, when you end up feeding him, he gets a bunch of different abilities. So right now he has anti-stun, which isn't particularly useful yet. So that's a little bit useless to get, but you can actually get the ability to upgrade items while you're in a dungeon. You actually combine items to kind of go into each other. And then you can also end up combining a bunch of different potions and different food items using the create curry option, which I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the next area and see if we can actually get into the dungeon. Nope, this is still the overworld. Anyways, if we go into our items here, or our menu here, we can actually go curry on demand, and you can actually cook different recipes. So I have a recipe, and so I can end up using that, and it's like, oh, I need these types of spices or these types of stuff. So let's see if we can cook it. Probably not going to get anything. Nope, that wasn't an actual recipe, and so I got cursed curry, which probably isn't good. I'll throw that at an enemy later. But you can actually like, end up making a bunch of different curries, and you can actually make a bunch of different buffs for yourself. And so curries are actually a huge part in this game, to where not only are you trying to save a curry shop from a big giant chain curry station that's trying to shut everyone down, but you're also trying to cook your own curries and make it so that your character gets a little bit stronger while you're going through the dungeon. And this is where kind of keeping your items between dungeons becomes somewhat important, because curry itself will end up going bad if you don't use it within the same floor. And so if you end up proceeding to the next floor, it will become a cursed curry. So if you make a really good curry and don't end up using it, you're kind of wasting your food items. And so what you want to do is you actually want to conserve your good food items so you can end up carrying them over to the next dungeon and make yourself a bunch of different buffs. And this is especially helpful when you're low level. Now you do level fairly quickly, and like I said, this game isn't particularly complex. When it comes down to the combat, you are looking at fairly basic stuff. There are spells and things like that. Like I did mention, I'll end up using them a little bit later when they're actually useful. They do have limited uses, but right here, I can actually open my skill button here and go to fire. I can actually hit the person in the back, for example, if there's like a ranged character or a character that ends up... There are characters, for example, that will eat food items on the ground, and so it's like, oh, I want to get rid of those. Ooh, a cryptic book. I don't actually know what that is either. There's a bunch of different items in this game that you have absolutely no idea what they end up doing, and some of the descriptions are a little bit confusing as well, I think intentionally so, and so you're supposed to like experiment and figure out exactly what they are and what they do. And I'm definitely filling up my inventory very, very quickly, as you see. It does not kind of shy away from throwing a bunch of items at you, but again, most of the items when you're going through, you're going to learn that you don't necessarily need to carry everything, because some items are just going to be completely useless. Can I hit him? No, I can't. Lame. I'm going to hit you instead. That didn't even hurt him all that much. There are weaknesses as well. When I actually got the tutorial for the magic, it actually tells you about weaknesses and stuff like that. And so there are certain different weaknesses that you can use against different enemies with different spells and different weapons and stuff like that. And so, for example, there are weapons with certain different types of damage types. One thing that is annoying is I can't attack diagonally here, I don't think. Oh, no, I can in this dungeon. Okay, so in some dungeons, I noticed that sometimes you can't attack diagonally on the kind of walls and stuff like that. Maybe it's when I'm in here. Maybe I can't attack diagonally outside. I don't necessarily know exactly what that was. Maybe it was a bug I ran into. The game does have a few different bugs that I've run into. I haven't run into any crashes or anything like that, but I have run into some performance bugs. You'll notice that the game is stuttering a little bit here and there when I'm end up walking around, which is just a constant thing that's kind of going on. Oh my god, can I please hit this thing? Thank you. There is some RNG involved in literally every aspect of this game, which is a little bit annoying. But yeah, so I have noticed some performance issues, and there are some bugs that I have noticed graphically mostly. I haven't noticed any gameplay bugs, unless what I was talking about a second ago. Sometimes I wasn't able to attack diagonally. Maybe that was actually a bug as well. Q is getting hungry, so we need to find some stuff. Read it loudly and it will let you appease a selected item. Use it. That one. So it's a cool shield. It was a dirty pot lid. Yeah, that's totally cool. Thanks, Pooparoo. It's actually Pupperoo. I like saying Pooparoo though, because it sounds funny. Do I have any interesting items? Mysterious shield. I'm gonna go ahead and equip it. It's a brass shield. I believe once you learn what items are and then you find it on the field again, you'll know exactly what it is again. Oh, that's kind of cool looking. I like that. Everything does have a cosmetic change as well. I'm just using my strongest stuff here. This is spicy. That's a kaboom scroll. What would Ku actually eat? You know what? We can actually make him some curry. Let's go ahead and do that. Curry on demand. I don't have any recipes. Apparently recipes are one-time use, maybe? That might be bad. Or maybe I just don't have the recipe items that I need. Oh, that's the same recipe we had last time, isn't it? Oh, we actually need a recipe? Oh, goodness. That's not good. Apparently, I ran out of recipes. I didn't realize I actually had a set limit of recipes. I did just unlock the curry option, by the way, so if I'm not 100% sure on what I'm doing with that, that's why. All stats have been temporarily loaded. Oh, that's lame. So not only is Ku starving to death, but also we ran out of stuff. What is the stats on this? It's got some magic. I'm not using magic. Eat that. There you go. Oh, it didn't actually fuel you up. Jesus Christ, you are such... Oh, magic up drug. That's one way to put it. Like I said, I'm not very far into the game, so I'm still running into a lot of items I don't necessarily know what it is. Read it out loud and I'll put a curse on someone. Oh, maybe I want to save that. Karma scroll. Will that put you to sleep? No, it just restored your hunger by 3. Oh my god, he is eating all of my items. Can I just feed... Oh, that was a monster house. Okay, well now we're in like a semi-boss fight. So there are bosses in this game as well, and there's also these random events that you can run into. And so it's got the cute little... Makes you invisible god for a short time. Sure, let's use that. Am I invisible now? Oh, it just makes it so that I can't take damage. Or did it say invincible and I just read it wrong? Do I have any AoE sort of stuff? Kaboom scroll. Let's use this. Is it gonna kaboom? Freaking legit. I'm also dying from poison. Do I have any potions? Please, I have a potion. Okay, cool. So if you're not careful in this game and you're not paying attention, the game will very, very quickly throw you into a dumpster and kick you back to town with none of your items. The game is not shy of killing you. However, when you're actually paying attention, the game isn't all that complex. Aside from having a bunch of randomized items and having to focus on a few different mechanics and make sure you don't accidentally use the wrong items or anything like that, it is fairly simple in its execution. And so you're not necessarily going to have explosive. It will blow up and it will do some damage. Cool, he blew up. You can feed him literally anything and he'll just eat it immediately because he is a hungry little guy. So again, it's a black orb. He didn't like that. Oh my god, I'm just gonna kill my coup here. Which is, that sounds so bad. I'm not gonna say that again. So yeah, the game, again, it isn't complex at this point. It seems like most of the kind of interesting elements come into the kind of wacky world and the kind of wacky presentation that it kind of has and the randomization going into it. It is an enjoyable experience, so it's not like it's unenjoyable or whatever, but it is kind of fun. And here's a downstairs as well. When you're in a dungeon, stuff like that, you go into stairs rather than just going into the end and stuff like that. This music is super annoying, so I'm just gonna go. I don't even care. But you can get a bunch of different items and stuff like that to kind of go into it. But again, you know, it is what you would expect from a roguelike, and it is kind of got a lot of those elements you would find into it, but it kind of adds in some interesting elements when it comes down to the stories. Okay, so for example, here with the let me freaking do it. Yeah, I wasn't actually able to hit him. That was just coup doing damage. So apparently I can't attack diagonally on those sort of segments, just to keep that in mind. So maybe it wasn't a bug. Maybe I just wasn't looking at it properly. You are super hungry. Can I use this? Get back to, oh, so I can use this and then it'll bring me back. Sweet, that is actually useful. Wait, cursed curry. Oh yeah, I forgot I had that. I'll feed you rice since I can't actually make curry. I wonder if I can find recipes and stuff like that. Use to enhance the selected piece of equipment. I want to use that on my sword. Did it work? Sweet, my sword is stronger now. So yeah, there is an enhancement feature. Are you level up enough to use it? Nope, you still haven't gotten it. Inflict bonus damage on foes with status elements. Okay, I don't know why you're not learning this. It is randomized for what he learns, and so sometimes he just won't learn it at all, which is a little bit annoying. There you go. Level up. Did you learn it yet? Nope. Oh my god, you are dying on my watch, and this is not cool. Oh my god, I killed him. I killed my coup. It's not good. Please love something. Oh my god. Can you, that's not good for him. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna be stuck here because my coup is hungry. So, is he falling down again? This is so unfortunate. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the story for a little bit. Because again, you can see what the gameplay is like. There are bosses and stuff like that and random elements that go into it, and sometimes you'll go into a dungeon and it'll be like, oh hey, you can't use items, or you can't use potions, or spells are limited, or you're constantly taking damage, or you're always poisoned, which is super annoying, especially to get on the first dungeon. That was the first time I ever died in this game. But yeah, so it's got those randomized elements, and it is what you would expect from a roguelike. But when it comes down to the story, what is the story about? Well, basically you're following Pooparoo here, or Paparu, if you want to say it properly and not be an idiot like I am. Then basically you're this character, and it's kind of like this goofy story, and I'm not necessarily sure exactly where it was trying to go at the start. As in, it started off, can I attack you? Yes, see, you can't attack diagonally. I was correct about that. I wasn't thinking it was weird. Okay, so, oh my god, where did you come from? Go away. You can also see them on the map. Sweet, all right, so I need to give him an item real quick. I guess it doesn't matter what item I give him. I keep forgetting to throw the thing. Well, cool, you're up. Let's go. I don't care about your whitey butt. You're getting your butt off the floor and going up these stairs. Or down. I don't necessarily know exactly what it is. But yeah, the story actually centers around this character. And again, I'm not necessarily sure on the direction, because it started off as this character being in a school and an exam, and then they got sent to a tower, and they were supposed to retrieve this orb, and then this little bastard ended up eating it. And so basically you failed the exam because they ate the orb, and so you get kicked out. And then what is this going to do? And these wards here, sometimes they give you positive effects, sometimes they give you negative effects. Oh, that's a ranged enemy, or was that a trap? I think I just ran into a trap because I wasn't paying attention. Ku's just going on a murdering spree. He's really hungry. Wants to eat everything. So, yeah, the story kind of centers on that, and then immediately after that, you kind of give up on the school, and it's like, oh, I died. Whoops. But yeah, this is what happens when you die. You get dragged back to town by something. But yeah, it centers around Pooparoo, and basically there's this big curry place or chain place that comes into town and tries to take down her favorite curry places, and they're driving all the customers away from Smile Curry. So you're basically trying to save Smile Curry by finding a legendary curry that's like the curry, related to the curry god or something along those lines. Again, I won't spoil it or anything. But yeah, it's just kind of kooky and weird, and so it kind of jumps around a lot. There's a lot of interesting characters, and the voice acting, because it is fully voice acted and everything, is all in Japanese, and so if you're not fluent in Japanese, that probably won't help you, so it'll end up being a lot of reading. The translation's iffy about here and there. Some of the lines are kind of weird, but it also fits with the style, so I don't know if it's 100% intentional, as in sometimes you'll be reading a line, it's like, that sounded a little bit weird, and it might just be because they wanted the characters to sound weird. I'm not necessarily sure on that. It might just be a translation error. I didn't actually check out the Japanese version of the game. But again, that is kind of different. But it kind of fits the theme at least, and it is very kind of weird and kooky. And everything kind of centers around curry. Everything has to relate to curry, which is kind of strange. So yeah, I mean, my impressions so far in the game aren't bad. When I'm not paying attention, I die a lot. Just like that. And the game isn't afraid to kind of kick your butt if you're not paying attention. Again, I had a ton of items that I couldn't end up using, and I couldn't go back to previous dungeons and stuff like that to kind of get items and enhance stuff. And I did end up, actually, I should probably check. It didn't throw away my equipped items, did it? It might have. I hope it didn't. Did I get rid of my sword? Did it like straight up get rid of my sword? Oh no, it got rid of my sword. Apparently you can lose your equipped item. Oh no. Dang it. Well, that literally sent me all the way back to level 1 with absolutely nothing. So that can happen. So yeah, the game, while it's not too complex, it is not afraid to just shut you down. I didn't think you lost your equipped items until now, because every time I've died beforehand, I didn't actually lose my items. But I guess this time, it's just like, you know what? Your sword that you've been using to carry yourself? Yeah, you don't have it anymore. Nope, it's just gone. Just gone forever. God, flashbacks. Anyways, what I think of this game so far is it's all right. It's kind of nice and quirky, and if you like these styles of games, it might be worth picking up if you're okay with the cutesy style of it, because I didn't show off too much of the story here. Maybe I'll show off a little cutscene or something like that earlier. It depends how I end up editing this or something along those lines. But yeah, it shows up in this visual novel style and stuff like that, so it's kind of weird and quirky in some of the kind of characters that they have there. It does have a lot of cliches, and while it's kind of cutesy and kind of childish, it's also got some references to stuff that is not so childish, especially perverted stuff. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily for kids, but it is in a very cutesy style. I do like the art style, and I do like the kind of direction that it's got going, and it's one that I might come back to. But for the most part, it's all right. It's okay if you like these styles of games. Look into it. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this one. And of course, you can end up checking out my website for more content that I end up producing. And of course, we have a gaming Discord, which you can end up jumping into if you want to end up playing some games with people or talk about stuffs, etc., or just have a quick link to the rest of my content as well. Make sure to leave your thoughts below in the comment section on what you think of the game, and if you end up playing this game a little bit more, obviously leave your thoughts. This is a roguelike, and it is kind of an RPG, so it is a sprawling RPG that has a bunch of different content that I just haven't gotten to yet. And so I might have seemed like I'm a little scatterbrained here and there, and it's because I really just haven't been that far into the game. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do a full review of this one. If I end up playing it more, I will, but I have a big backlog to get to, and that's kind of why I'm doing this video now, is because I'm kind of done playing it for now. So I might come back to it in the future or something like that. And obviously, if you guys want to see more of it, let me know in the comments. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm gonna go pooparoo. I'm actually not. God, that sounds so wrong. Could I say I'm gonna feed my coo?